because regulators are looking about transparency for sure, but they're also very much looking at risk. Something that is, I think, still very important apart from the need for transparency is that the whole regulation is going to increase the capital needs.
Hello and welcome to the Banker's Masterclass on Data Utility Models. My name is Brian Kaplan, I'm editor of The Banker. I'm here today with Philippe Chambadal, Chief Executive of SmartStream, and Jo van der Velde, who is Managing Director and Head of Product Management for the Euroclear Group. Philippe, I mean, clearly regulation is at the forefront of every banker's mind these days. How are regulation and data management connected now? Because they didn't used to be, right?
Regulators on both sides of the Atlantic and Asia do want one thing, which is transparency. So when you're talking about capital adequacy rules from Basel III, you're looking at the Dodd-Frank or EMIR regulations. If you produce a report as a financial institution to a regulator, the regulator wants the firm to stand by the numbers. And that includes obviously the reference data on the pricing method that were used to produce these reports. So the new regulation really forcing the firms about creating a proper data governance framework where every firm can trace the data back from the original source, and if there was any change made to the data, there was a proper audit trail of why it was changed and who did that throughout the whole information cycle. And that's really the only way forward. If you cannot stand by your data, how can you be sure that your risk report and cash position you report to the regulators are accurate?
And how far away are the banks from actually having that audit trail then?
I think we're frankly in the early stages, because very, very few banks in the world run off a single security master. I mean, it is just a handful. Most of the banks are really running on dozens, sometimes hundreds of security masters and corporate action processing systems. So you have this very, very siloed and brittle infrastructure. Till you come to a common data model and a mutualized data utility model, I don't see how the industry can come up with a credible answer.
Okay, so Jo, I mean, when you were putting together this arrangement, this data utility with SmartStream, I mean, did you have discussions with the regulator in order to kind of get them on board and get them involved in how it would look?
Well, I would say directly involved with regulators. I think we are Euroclear as a market infrastructure. We have, of course, regular discussions with our regulators. As I said, the service that we offer will be hosted within Euroclear's operations. So it will. It's the same team that today is in charge of new issues, or the team that is in charge of corporate actions. They will host the service that we provide to our customers. So of course it will be under the same scrutiny, same audit and same regulatory oversight. And of course they are welcoming an initiative like that because it reduces the risk. Because regulators are looking about transparency for sure, but they're also very much looking at risk. Something that is, I think, still very important apart from the need for transparency is that the whole regulation is going to increase the capital needs. Yeah? And you need capital as a bank, you need capital for market risk, for credit risk, but there's a big chunk that goes into operational risk. And to the extent you can reduce that operational risk, i.e. less trade breaks, less missed opportunities in terms of corporate actions, by having the right data, you will have a lower need of capital and so more room for other businesses.
All right, and is it possible to sort of give a bit of an idea about how much capital for operational risk we might take out by this sort of process?
That's a very, very difficult to estimate, because people always focus on the direct cost, like the cost of sourcing data, the operations that they see, the infrastructure that they have. But if you take a firm, if you look for instance at Euroclear, I mean, we have also a capital base. I think about 1/4 of our capital, 1/4 to 1/3 of the capital is allocated for operational risk. So I think it could be in some certain firms it can be significant, yeah.
Okay. And Philippe, I mean, there's still a long way to go, isn't there, in terms of making these processes more efficient in the banks? I mean, you're still looking at operations that have masses of people and lots of little chains of command and so forth. I mean, are we starting to make a bit of, I mean, first of all, describe that to me, and then are we starting to make some progress in that direction?
I think there's definitely a lot of progress. I mean, we've seen it with firms who have decided to move to a back office utility model. Which you've seen the Accenture announcement in the summer. And in general, firms are very open to the utility model. They're looking for ways to cut costs very, very quickly. And I've recognized, I think, in a wider market, I think, recognize that coming up with the clean closing price for IBM every day across 50,000 firms doesn't make much sense. I mean, there has to be a better model. What matters is that for the trade has to go through, right? It's not about creating the best security master in the world, the best corporation, but it's really about pushing the trade through and having proper operational control and standing in front of regulators with numbers you can trust.
Okay. And Joe, I mean, do you think that you've actually established a model here that's going to be used for the industry as a whole?
Absolutely. I think it's, again, Euroclear is at the center today of a lot of that data, and I think in combination with the right technology, we can act as sort of the arbiter for the industry, and I think it's the right model forward. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.